All right, so we're on, and ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Amazing Vito Show, and I'm talking to the incredibly talented Matt Disero. Everybody, thank you for being with me, Matt.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.
And a lot of people don't know. I've known Matt for a little bit. We used to go to the same high school. Problem is I was a higher grade than him. He was a lower grade, and then now in entertainment, I'm the lower grade, and he's in the higher grade. So
I think we're
that's
all in the
how
same grade now. We're in the
it's.
no working grade right now. That's
Wow, I mean, you've been doing well. Real quick, let me just give a little background. Matt, he's appeared Penn and Teller, Just Fool Us. They said something really cool. I always screw these up. That's why I write them down. This is from Penn and Teller. They said if I had uh, magic powers, they would be yours.
it's a
Is
great
that
quote. It was
it?
very generous of Penn to say that. And you know what? Penn goes out of his way to say something usable promotion wise, I think, for every act. And for a star to do that, that is a big deal. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, but I've seen him where he doesn't do that for everybody. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, there are
because
a few.
there are a few
There are a
that
few where it's like,
yeah, that just don't do it. So anyways,
that was a great night.
yeah, we'll get to that in 1 minute. And also, Matt has been on Netflix, Hulu, Comedy Central. He is an award-winning magician, but he puts hilarity to it. He's it's very personable when he's dealing with people. He makes you feel like you're not a stranger. You're part of the show, and it makes the experience very you not I hate saying unique, but yes, of course it's unique, but it makes it feel like he did that for me. And I think that is
Sure.
something that is where you've worked on, where I remember you told me, uh, for some advice, you're like, yeah, dude, just you got to be you. Don't be anybody else. Make the audience like and that it was some really great advice. And Matt has also helped me out with stuff like, hey, if like he'll send me stuff to go here, watch this could help your act. And so he's a very generous person, and I really appreciate that. It's very
Wow.
kind of you. You don't have he doesn't have to do that stuff, but he does it uh because he loves
I think it's
watching.
just being human, man. It's just being human. That's
Yeah,
all
but
there is to
some
it.
people aren't.
No,
Some
no, the
people.
world is full of horrible people, but
Oh,
I'd like to think that everybody is nice.
I.
Interesting though, your point. I just made a blog post about this, oddly enough, but you said you got to be yourself on stage, and I just wrote about this because the memory came back to me when I was in high school. I was at a house party with this girl I was like madly in love with, and we're lying on this bed, and there's a Moxie Fruvis poster on the floor. You remember that band Moxie Fruvis that Dirtbag Giangameshi was in? And I had just busked with them. It was like one of the few times I ever busked at Young and Dundas. But I said, oh, I just did a show for them. And she's like, what do you want to do with your career? This is like high school. It's like grade 10. But I had already been performing a lot. And I was like, I think, I want to be like David Copperfield. And she stops and she's like, but there's already like a Copperfield. You want to be, don't, I want to see you. I don't want to see him. World's already got one of him. And really made a huge like impact on me, mostly because I was madly in love with her and I would have done anything she said. But her advice certainly helped. It was like a big deal. Like I didn't waste a lot of time trying to dance like Copperfield or dress like him and stuff like that. You gotta be yourself. And the closer to the bone of who you are, probably the more successful you will be. I think that's the best advice anybody could give.
Yeah,
She gave it to
that.
me early, and she wasn't even a performer, though we were in the same drama class.
Yeah, I think that is. You have memories like that. I remember a girl saying to me, we're watching Pauly Shore, and he was doing a show. I'm not trying to crap on Pauly Shore, but I remember the girl says to me, she goes, "You can do that. You're funny. You're funnier."
Yeah,
And
people
I,
always say that to me.
I always thought, that like it's not to crap on the guy, but it's just to say, you know what, you go instead of sitting there on a couch, why don't you go out and try it? You know, and it was just,
Yeah.
it
It's the
was because,
hardest thing. Getting over your own ego is like the hardest thing, and your own self-doubt
well,
is the hardest thing. Like, people don't submit to TV shows because they're like, oh, I'm never going to get on it. And to be honest with you, for the first 2 seasons of Fool Us, that was me. I was like, ah, man, they got access to every magician on the planet. There's no way. And then I just thought, I'm sending in something. You know what? What's the worst they can say is no, I've had it. I'm getting too old. I want to take a run at this. And then all of a sudden you get an email from the producer going, want to have you on. Like,
yeah,
yeah, you got to get over yourself and just swing for the fences, like they say in baseball, I think. Right. So,
yeah, yeah. And, you know, if you fail, you fail. So,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but
Fail again, and then you keep failing until you don't anymore, right? That's the
yeah,
thing. Fail
fail,
better. Just
fail
keep
until,
failing better.
yeah, fail until you look at a beam and go, can that hold 170 pounds? You know,
Yeah,
so
some type of failing is a little more dangerous.
yeah, so just you know, you just need a good rope. So
Okay.
yeah, being on the show, did that kind of to have that, when you walk out there, do you feel like these guys have seen every single trick, uh, you know, in the business? You know, they've seen so many acts, they know the history of magic. They, you know,
It's a
it's
lot to
hard.
throw at a person, right? Like, and I've done a fair bit of TV prior to that, but this was a 9 camera shoot in a 1,500 seat theater. Penn and Teller are maybe 15 feet away from you, so they're heroes from my childhood. You know, I used to watch Penn and Teller's Invisible Thread. They're a little short. I used to watch it at lunch hour all the time to sort of make me happy before I went back to school. So all that is there, and then you're standing at this mark waiting for them to call, action so they can start shooting your segment. And you got Allison Hannigan, who is an American Pie. She's introducing you, and you want to, yeah, there's all this crazy stress, but at the same time they make a big deal of saying beforehand, you don't get to talk to Penn and Teller beforehand, but the producers and the magic consultants on the show go way out of their way to say, look, don't worry about fooling them, man. This is not about fooling Penn and Teller. This is about creating good magic for TV and making magic look good. And that has, since the very beginning, been the thrust of the show. That's all they care about. They just want audiences to see a lot of good magicians. And to their credit, it's not an ego show, right? Like, it's not about them. I mean, it is a little bit because, it has to be to draw audiences, but really it is about exposing the world to a lot of magicians that people never would have heard of. And it's given a lot of people a career. Or in my case, it sort of rejuvenated my career, and it opened up new markets and gave me new credibility that I didn't have before. So yeah, a lot of us owe a lot to Penn and Teller, and we all sort of, I think myself, like, I would love to just say, man, Teller, thank you so much.
Well,
Get
I'm
the
sure
opportunity to
they're,
thank them, right?
yeah, I'm sure they're grateful. But when you perform, did you think this could fool them, or did you think, like, people have,
Listen,
if you watch the show,
everybody
people take
thinks
years. They go, I've worked on this for years, and then they go there, and Penn's like, here, let me, Teller's like, come here, let me tell you, and the guy, the magician's like, yeah, that's
here's
kind
how
of,
you trick yourself, though, Vito. Like, the method for what I did on that show, where I know the color of five people's underwear. Um, it's an old type of effect that's been updated by me, new lines and blocking and so forth. But I thought, obviously they know how it's done. But there's always this, like, 2 seconds before you walk out, you're like, man, what if they miss it? What if maybe I'll be the guy that they did? You know what I mean? You let yourself believe the lie for a couple of seconds, but that helps get you into the spirit of the show. And then once you start rolling, it's just muscle memory. Now you just got to work, because you got the cameras on you and all this stress, and you don't want to screw up. So everything, it's like golf. When you strike a golf ball correctly, you're not really thinking about it. It just happens because it's muscle memory. So my advice to people for that show is always do a piece of magic that you've done for a long time, because when they're there under the lights and Penn and Teller are there and there's all this stress, all you got is muscle memory. That's what you got to roll with. So, but yeah, I didn't really think I was going to fool them, but half a second, it was kind of fun to dream of it anyways. But fooling them's not the thing. And had I fooled them, it wouldn't have launched my career anymore. I don't sell magic to magicians. And I think if you fool people, that's the only thing that magicians who sell magic to magicians, fooling Penn and Teller is very important, but not for me. I work for the general public. So doing a good spot and being funny, likable, and executing the effect correctly. That's what counts.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I did that.
You're focused in on the act. You just want everything to run perfectly. Um,
Yeah.
you
You
should
you
have.
hear you hear comics often talk about the first time they were on the Tonight Show, and I've asked John Wing about this many times. I work with John a fair bit, and every time I ask him, he's like, "Well, I can remember lots of details, but the actual set, like when you're performing, very hard to remember the details of it." And I experienced that too, because this Penn and Teller Fool Us show, I always try to explain this to people. It is for magicians what Johnny Carson was in the '80s to comedians. It is the same level of importance. It's the same level of pressure too. So yeah, it's a little bit of that. So you can never remember all the details, but
Yeah, I would never be on that show, but what I would do is
you never know, man. You never know.
no, it's horrible. You've seen my act; it's horrible. So what I would do is I would just have like like the statue of Fool Us. I'd have that appear, right, and just grab it and just go, "Thank you, see ya," and just walk away. And yeah, I think Teller would laugh, Penn not so much, but it would be like I got something out of it, and they would remember me going, "We're never having him back," you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that
If you could come up with a cool way to produce that Fool Us trophy and then run off with it, like that's actually a really good bit. And I bet you that would make the show. But that's the thing about the show, right? It has to be funny, but you couldn't just make it appear in a kind of a shitty way. Like if you could come up with a really strong magic way to do it, yeah, you'd get the show.
this is how you do it. I'm
Don't
brilliant.
tell everybody.
You slowly build it, and then all of a sudden you're
As
like,
you're talking.
"Ta-da, see ya," and just walk away. So because there are a few people I'm not gonna crap on, but he dresses up like a dragon. He's
He's the biggest winner of anyone from Fool Us because
yeah,
it built him an entire career, an empire.
yeah. And a lot of people say, "See, you're a sweet person." I've met so
By all
many,
accounts, so is Piff. I have never met the man.
yeah, but there are some people that are not. But
Yeah.
you being in the business, I'm surprised you don't have the ego. And like,
Show business beat that out of me years ago. I got nothing left.
like what do you sit there and go, like, like like there's always somebody better. Do you ever do that? Like you just go,
There
I'm
is
good.
always somebody better. There's always somebody better.
Yeah, but
And I
it is
think
it,
probably
it's
even if you get to Copperfield level, you probably don't go, there's somebody better. But now you start going, there's somebody coming up behind me that's going to be better. As soon as you get complacent, you get crap, you know?
right.
The people I respect most in this industry just continually work. And I'm really lucky that like lots of my friends are like that. They just don't stop innovating. Not necessarily with technology. Like I think my favorite acts in magic are the ones that use the least technology because I think it allows you, like I know a mind reading act that refuses to use any technology. And as a result of that, their act is spectacular, more impossible, and it allows them to work anywhere. It works as well on Zoom as it does live. And part of that is because they just eschew the technology. They just go, we're not going to have it, but it makes them work harder. And I always respect that kind of stuff, like work harder. Like Jack Black talks about, or not Jack Black, what's his name? The musician. Oh my God. Uh, he's, he's from Tennessee. At any rate, he talks about this one musician who I'm a fan of, though I can't summon his name, talks about making yourself work harder, like take 2 more steps towards that prop on stage. Put in the work a little harder. So it's like that, right?
Yeah, I don't. I have absolutely no.
So if there's a technological way to accomplish what you
Yeah, if
want,
I
you're
could,
not going to do
what
that.
I do is I'll try and steal as much as possible, right? Because I used to be pretty tough. So if Matt were to come and go, "Hey, you stole my act," I would just pull out a gun, you know, and then he'd go, "All right, whatever, pal. Good luck." And
Yeah, yeah, it's all good.
that was how I would innovate, right?
You go to
Watch,
the Rick Pettis School of Comedy then.
yeah, watch. Who's that famous guy who he would always steal people's jokes, and they would always go. They would go to the other act, and they would just go, "Hey, Matt, such and such is on right now. He's working the Comedy Store," and you'd go, "So how's my act doing?"
Oh, funny. Yeah, you hear that a lot. I always hear lots of great stories of people who've had their acts ripped off, like famous people, and then they do things.
Well, there was that famous one where the a magician, I think 80 years ago or something, these guys built something, and he couldn't figure out, this magician could not figure out how it was done. He went to like 50 shows. Finally, he jumped out of his seat and ran in the back, and it was too late to stop. And he saw how the trick was done. Anyways, that was a pretty weaselly move, but that's just, that's the way it
I heard a
was.
great story about, Johnny Thompson. So Johnny Thompson, the master, like the Godfather, right? He's the guy who knows everything about magic. And I heard some story. I'd love to know if it's true. I know two of his really close friends, so I should ask. But I had always heard this story that someone in Vegas had ripped off his act. And so he went to the casino to watch the show, and he would just sit front row every night for like 8 days, 9 days in a row, just watching this guy watch him do his act,
Oh.
making the guy sweat. And then Johnny Thompson can't make it one night for whatever reason, and just puts a baseball bat in the seat in his place, like just not letting the guy go. And I always thought, wow, what a great story. I hope that's true.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? A lot of theft in magic and a lot of theft in comedy. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They can take the bucket, but they can't take the well. So you can always tell, like if there's two guys, if you ever know there's two guys doing basically the same thing. The guy who originated the piece is the guy who has it most tagged out. The guy who has the most tags on it is the originator, because he's the one who can keep writing jokes, where the other guy can just only steal the one thing. So that's how you tell.
Well, are you very protective? Like, are you, because I tell this guy, he's a comedian, and he has good bits, but he doesn't put anything online. And I tell him the reason why I'll put stuff online is to say I did it. That way, I go, I did it, and I did it before you did it. So, uh, you
Until
know,
recently, I don't put much of anything online, but that's largely because of crippling self-doubt. Um, yeah, I don't care if anybody steals anything or whatever. I've been super fortunate with my friends. Like some of the greatest comics working in Canada and America are really helpful to me. So I don't write all the jokes on my act because they're nice enough to help punch it up. And then I help punch up their acts in return, and it goes back and forth, right? And I find that's the way it works, I think, with a lot of guys. It's a group effort if you're friends with,
the
enough
right,
people who
the
are
right
generous.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, who are generous. I mean, there are guys who are super protective, but nothing creating stuff doesn't really work in a vacuum that well. I always notice too, the two-person acts, like these mentalists that I refer to, who I'm fans of and friends. I'm a fan of their work, of course, but I'm also a fan of their work ethic. And part of that is they don't really need other people, though I think they probably get some help from others, but they have each other to bounce ideas off of. And what a nice luxury that is, to have a solo performers don't have. So yeah, you need somebody to help work out this stuff with, right? I mean, it's part of my gripe with this pandemic and Zoom shows is that I can't work out new material because I don't feel the beat of the
Yeah.
audience, because I don't see them. So, or I see them, but I don't hear them in real time. I don't feel it. You know how it is.
Yeah.
So, it's a bit of that. It's a bit of that. But
It's a very odd. I think of it as a surgeon working on somebody, and there's no patient. You're just doing the move because you're getting no
yeah,
feedback.
playing keyboard with
Where,
no keyboard.
yeah, where the nurse or whatever is going, he's dying. So you could you could work better or whatever. To me, live performances are like, that's what I feed off of. It's just I'm very,
You can
very,
get that. You can get
very,
that from Zoom. You
uh,
can, but it's not the same.
yeah, it's just, I don't know. I hate technology. So,
But you know what? I hate technology too, but I saw a Magic Castle show, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago or something. It was Jeff and Tessa Evison, Ben Seidman, and Derek Hughes. And it was by far the best online show I've ever seen. And it was closest to feeling like a real magic experience, like a real live show. It was really great to watch, and it buoyed my spirits, and that was helpful and hopeful for me.
Well,
So,
that's good. Do
doable.
you think that it's going to end up where, having these Zoom shows, hybrid shows we were talking earlier? Um, do you think that that's the future? Because I hope not. Me
I think
personally,
I think it will.
I
I
want
think
the
people are right.
crowd.
I think people are right. It will be a mix of them because the reality is that companies have realized, holy smokes, I have a conference that's going to happen in Denver. I don't need to fly my guys in. I don't need to put up, no hotels, uh, no excursions or anything else. No trade show. Huge amount of money's been saved. So will these things happen? Yes. However, I have a neighbor who's the head of sales for Canada and America for a massive firm. So her plate would be millions of dollars a week in sales, millions and millions of dollars a week in sales. And she says that the relationships are near impossible to maintain over Zoom. And she's like, I don't care what anyone says, it's coming back. Trade shows, these type of events, they have to come back because at a certain level, it's all like everything. It's about relationship, and the relationship does not work the same over this as it does if you and I are sitting in a bar or anything else. So, yeah, it, Zoom will always be around, but so will live shows. And there will be some people who just excel at Zoom shows and get the luxury of staying home, and the rest of us will go back out on the road, flying around all over the world. But that's okay with me because I said this in another interview a few weeks ago, but it's true. If you went to 14-year-old Matt starting out and said, you know what, you're going to sit in your basement and perform for people through your computer, I'd go, I don't want to do this. I'm going to go be an electrician. Like the juice was always for me getting on the plane, flying, I always wanted to see the world. I wanted to perform for people live. The idea of doing it through a computer just doesn't grab me.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you were younger, if you were in your 20s and maybe you were starting out, this is what you expect and like, then it's cool. It's just, it's like some people like apple pie, some people like cherry. That's what I've discovered.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the show that I did this weekend, of course, it was social distancing and everything, and only up here you only allowed 50, including staff. So, but what I did is there's this kid, and you're a very giving person. You're like, Vito, here, take this trick. I want you to watch this. This would be perfect for you. And that shows you what kind of person Matt is. I try and give him drugs, and he's like, Vito, I don't do cocaine. Would you just leave me alone with the coke? So,
Anymore.
but I'm like, Matt,
I'm trying to get off the heroin. Can I just
it's
the age?
awesome. And he's like, I don't care. I don't do that. Okay.
Like,
So, but
can't find my veins anymore to shoot the stuff.
yeah, it's just my I can't walk anymore. So he would he was a very giving person, and that to me there was a young kid who I would always see him at the magic gathering there, and he was very quiet, and he would do a little bit here and there, and I would just go, well, I got a show, and I've done it twice to him, where I go, would you like to come out and do 5 minutes? Right. And what I do is I tell the audience, everyone there, I just go, hey, listen, it's going to be clean tonight. There's going to be no F bombs or anything, nothing silly, because I just want this to
I
be.
want you giving any guff to this kid.
Well, that's what I said. I said, I don't mind if if you heckle me, trust me, I could handle it,
Yeah.
but I do not want anything to go with this wrong with this kid. So he would come out and nervous, and he was 12, and he'd come out in his suit. He had a little suit, and it would just like my eyes would water because they would just go, I love this kid. I just love him. So
Yeah.
this show that we did, I had him come out. I said, put on my vest. I always wear a vest. I go out there, pretend you're me. And what I was doing was I was trying to give him as much stage time as possible, because last night I got a text from him saying, Vito, you're an amazing magician, which I kind of laughed. I just thought, yeah, that's, you're really pushing it there. He goes, you're a great comedian. Thank you so much for having me on the show again.
Oh, that's
And
great.
And that to me makes me feel like $1 million.
Well, you're doing the world a favor because you're a product of your environment, right? So, like, if you were lucky enough to find people early on who gave you stage time or helped you,
Ye-
you will likely be the guy later on who will do that. You know, when I
Well,
joined the Magic Club when I was like early teens, like 12, 13, whatever, I'm sitting there, no one's talking to me. Ron Leonard, pretty big deal back in the day, walks up to me, hey, know anybody here? I'm like, no. He's like, ah, come on, I'll show you around. And like, you know what I mean? And it always just made me realize like you want to be that guy. You
yeah,
want to be, and then the same, like I still benefit from friends, you know, leveling me up and helping with get me gigs and stuff. And I try to do the same. Um, yeah, it's just pay it forward, man. It's just good human
yeah.
practice.
I want him when I'm in the ground, buried, like in 2 weeks from now, where
Yeah.
he remembers me like 20 years from now, driving a Ferrari with some hot babe beside him, and he just goes, "The amazing Vito. He smelled like corned beef, but he gave me time." You know.
I
You
am
know,
who I am because I got the Vito
I
stage time.
I remember this fool years ago, but to me, it's just
Well, you're 100% right, Vito. 100% right. Like I just talked to Bill Davern, who you know. We were on the phone the other night, and I was like, you know, remember those like the Chris Pongrat gigs, the Terry Parker gigs in the North? They were always horrible gigs, bar gigs. We were sometimes behind chicken wire. You know what I mean? Guys are, you know how they were. They were horrible gigs, but they served a purpose. They taught you how to work in tough places, and they taught you something you just didn't know it at the time. But if you can survive those, not
oh
only
no,
stage
God.
time and learn your act, but it makes you bulletproof for when the good gigs come along, when there's high pressure and there's thousands of dollars at stake. They're not intimidating you, man, because you survived Wawa or Timmins or something. You know, when you got a bunch of drunken rig pig guys from Alberta coming at you, like you go, yeah, whatever. A bunch of executives, have at it, baby. Come at me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Like
and truthfully, you also learn too from those gigs that the nicer you are on stage, the less you get heckled.
yeah. Bill would see me. I think he would just come out to watch me snap.
That
Where
sounds like Bill.
I would
It
just
totally sounds
I
like
would
Bill.
explode on somebody, and then he would just be afterwards. He would just go, "Yeah, that was funny. That was great. I love how you just lost it up there and just laid
But
into that
remember, he and
person."
Hook, he and Dave Hook used to love watching guys die, and Hook would be at the back of the room yelling, "Don't shoot, let them burn!"
Oh
Like, you
God,
know,
he used to. I remember seeing. I went to go. I still have his when he was in the hospital, when he was in hospice, when it was ready for him to go. I went to go see him, and just seeing his face glow when I walked in. I remember he's like he held my hand, and he was so the drugs and everything, and he was so out of it. He forgot, like he didn't know that I was hold. He didn't know he was holding my hand, and he was holding my hand for an hour, and I was like, my legs were killing me. I kept saying, I don't want to let go of his hand, because once I let go of his hand, that's probably the last time I'm going to hold his hand. You know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Everybody loved Hook for that.
he was such a beautiful. I told him a joke, and he's laying there, and he finally did the whole hurry up, like just
that
reel it
sounds.
reel it in, get to the bottom of the story. So and then on my I remember going there, and the nurses would go, Dave Hook, your comedian. Yep, Dave Hook. So tons of comics would go there to go visit him and
Of course.
try and make him laugh. And Kenny Robinson was on his way out. I was on my way up, and he was like, I go, how is he? And he goes, I just put on the love glove for him, you know? So it was one of those things where I think about him, a
I
lot.
think about him all the time too.
Such a
And can I
sweetheart.
tell you my can I tell you my favorite Dave Hook story? Um, this would be like early '90s, I guess. Dave Hook, myself, Dave Sokolowski, and Bill Davern are on a show that's being televised, like local television for some charity. I forget what the charity was. So it's supposed to be clean, you know. So I go up and do my song and dance and, whatever. Then a Hook gets up, and you know how Hook is. He's just doing the songs and stuff. And he does some joke about Ronald McDonald House. And this guy in the audience loses his mind. Well, fuck you. Ronald McDonald saved my kid's life. He was in Ronald McDonald House. How dare you make fun of Ronald McDonald House? My kid is alive because of that. And Hook's like, whoa, you know how Dave was. Whoa. Hey, listen, man, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to cause it. I just want to sing some songs and have some fun. My apologies, man. Like, I did not mean to upset you or Ronald McDonald House. Let's just play a song. He grabs his guitar, bring. He goes, Ronald McDonald fucks kids. Ronald McDonald fucks kids.
Yeah, he was awesome. He was absolutely awesome. Oh God,
I
people
haven't
have
laughed
no
that
idea.
hard in forever, and it's probably the best TV spot I could ever imagine. Like, it was just so great.
God, people just don't. It just. Anyways, I miss him, and he was a great.
Yeah, man, I miss him too.
So,
You think of the fun memories. Just think of the funny road stories with him, and he'll always be around.
the thing is, we both love boxing, right? So we would go into detail about fights. That we knew all the classifications and who was champion or whatever. So that's how we hooked up by just he heard me at a party at Bill Davern. He's walking around. Bill's walking around. He looks like a swinger, right? He's never picked up a weight in his life. So he's got like this dress coat from the 70s on, and his testicles are hanging out, and he's
I know this party.
yeah.
So
So
I was at this party. This is the Stan Thompson girlfriend party.
yes, I was there. Yeah, I was there. You saw him walking around like with his nuts, just and it's just like, Bill, nobody needs to see that, and he's just like, he thinks he's Hugh Hefner. It was a great party. Uh, uh, yeah, I'm you know what, I'm gonna call Bill or whatever soon. I gotta call him. So all right, anyways.
Sorry. Dave, by the way, I'm sorry for the squeaking of my chair.
No, it's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. So it just every time you do my jaw, just all right. So who was yours, Matt? Who was your because I always you are, and I'm not saying this to kiss your ass or whatever. I've seen you perform so many times, and it's always
the same boring pedestrian.
No, don't say that.
Garbage.
No, it isn't. Not even close. Don't say stupid stuff like that. It's very you feel like it's part of you. You're like I'm gonna see something cool. I'm gonna see something funny. I'm gonna see. It's very.
But I really just want to be me up there and hope that you like me.
You have many layers where it's just you're not I'm very deadpan, and that's it. You are funny. Yeah, the stuff that you do is incredible. That's why he gets booked on like major gigs, guys. He doesn't get booked on Mickey Mouse shows like moi.
He don't get booked on talent either, as it turns out.
See, you're very humble, which is awesome. You've always been a very humble person, but
I think it's just like guys like Wing and stuff always taught me, like, do it like this, right? Like peaks and valleys, just like Shakespeare, something dramatic happens, now something funny, or something funny, dramatic, boom, boom, boom. Keep it moving, because the more different it is, the more gears you can shift to, the more the audience doesn't get bored of what you're doing. Like Stephen Wright is hilarious to me, but I can't take that deadpan for more than 15, 20 minutes. So in an hour show, it's too much. So I always want to be like a little bit of everything. And Magic saves me a little bit too, because it allows me to be different. It allows me to get people involved, and they become the stars of the show, and I get to play off that. So it's different every night. So all those things come into play, right?
Well, how did you meld the two, the magic and the comedy? How, like
people had done it before me, obviously.
Yes.
But my big hero was Paul Daniels, the Paul Daniels Magic Hour I used to live for as a kid, and Paul was very funny.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I want to be like that. I think to myself, I'm kind of funny, young me. I'm like, I could be that. And then going to places like Yuck Yucks, and more importantly than just working there or other comedy rooms, like hanging out at them, watching the comics work. Like, I was really lucky. Ed would always book me at Yucks with guys like Stuart Francis and Winston Spear. Like that was like an education that I, probably didn't deserve to get. But if you can take a little piece of that and go, man, maybe I could do something like that with the magic. Maybe that's, and then guys like Wes Saharic, who's like my oldest and dearest friend in comedy and magic, taught me the value of an old joke, like Milton Berle type jokes. You can use those in your act if you spin them around. John Wing is like a walking encyclopedia of vaudeville, and he and I both have an appreciation for vaudeville. And it was John that's like, you can take these beats and change them for yourself. So yeah, it's like you're just a construct of everybody you hang out with, of course, right? Like you're not anybody without everybody else.
Well,
So
the,
that's how it
the
happens, right?
yeah, the whole vaudeville, like I love vaudeville.
Mhm.
I people don't know what vaudeville was. If you don't, it used to be before television. Guys would like,
Houdini used to work vaudeville.
yes,
George Burns used to work vaudeville. 15 shows a day sometimes, these things. The circuit was ridiculous, but it was the place to go. It was the
or
thing to do.
a quarter. You know,
Yeah, you didn't get paid much.
no,
Like, but there were some people that did make a lot of, like Houdini made crazy money. Uh, but you could make a living but you had to grind it out.
did
Nothing wrong with that though.
did you see the movie Laurel and Hardy?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, they didn't
Great movie.
own. I had no idea they didn't own the rights to their, and neither did the Stooges, and so they never made.
They
Uh,
didn't make the money you thought they were going to make.
yeah, like I thought these guys were living the high life, and they're like 15 years later when they're not doing physically so well. They're trying to get on the road, trying to get the career where it once was, and the person who owns their movies or whatever, they're the one racking in the coin. The guys that
But
were
that's the way now, right?
yeah.
Own your work. 100% always own your work. Like I read a great story about a woman who Netflix picked up her script, and she was like, "Oh my god, finally Netflix is buying my stuff." But they wanted to own the script and give her like 8% of whatever. And she's like, "Nope, I'm not giving up ownership." And she ended up taking it to Hulu or something, probably for less money, but she retains the ownership because you got to make money while you sleep. You can't make money you can make money just performing live, but the real money is making money while you sleep. Like comics oftentimes in Canada make more from that sound exchange, SoundCloud thing than they do from performing live because their albums are played on the radio. But if you don't own it, you know, then you don't
Oh,
get the
I
money.
don't own it. I mean, I have people from they were out in South Carolina going, we heard you on the radio, and I'm like, when?
XM radio, right?
And I'm like, when? And I got paid $100 to do that like years ago.
Yeah,
So
but now you're making thousands off it on the back
no,
end, right?
no, it's just zero because I had to sign like 3 pieces of paper saying I'm done. I did the stupid move.
Oh, right. You signed your life away. You signed your
Yeah,
rights away.
yeah, I was just like, yeah, you could have it, whatever. And then yeah,
We all did that with Comedy at Club 54, right? We for $700 we signed our life away and we didn't get any residuals after, for 10 years or whatever. It just
uh,
happens sometimes. But
yeah,
it does go to show you the importance of owning the work. So
yeah, and that's the thing is rolling the dice, and seeing where they land, but being you wish. It's always hindsight, Matt, where you go years later, you're like, man, I should have did this, I should have did that, I shouldn't have hit him, I should have hit, I should have killed this guy.
I shouldn't have taken that hit of acid before I
Yeah,
went on stage. That was a
like
mistake.
yeah, so in hindsight it's hard, but again, if you're a younger person, or I get people asking me, do you do this, do you do that, and it's just like you try, and you don't want to give them misinformation. You want to just tell them my experience. This is what happened to me. That's
Hmm.
all I could tell you, you know and
Good
that
advice though is super important to younger acts, don't you think? Like
yeah, oh
you got to
yeah,
be honest.
yeah,
I always got honest advice, which worked out to be really well.
yeah. What was your uh worst gig you've ever done where it just went completely to shit?
Um, Worst gig. I had somebody die introducing me at the Calgary Saddle Dome. Like actually died, dropped dead, and
Are you
then
being serious?
yeah, and then like ambulance, the police, the whole rock and roll. They come, the room clears, And then after all that is done, all the medical crap and everything, the cop stuff, they go, you have to go on. You got to do the show. And I'm like, are you kidding me? There's no way. No, we're not paying you unless you go on. I'm like, listen, man, it would be wrong. It's ethically wrong. Somebody just died. Everyone's crying. Nope, you have to do it. So they gather everybody back into the rounds of 10. They all sit their corporate event. And person who introduces me is crying,
Oh God. Are you being serious?
deadly sick. And then they go, now the comedy and magic of Matt Disero, big round of applause. I walk out and I die. I told you. I fly home. I get home and the phone rings and it's the agent screaming at me. I paid you so many thousands of dollars. How could you screw this gig up? Blah, blah. I'm like, did they tell you that somebody died? No. they just left that out. All they said was they were looking for a refund. I'm like, I'm not giving a refund. Are you kidding me? They just made me do the most horrible, I probably got bad karma for that for the rest of my life. So yeah, that's probably the worst gig. I mean, there's lots of bad gigs, but that might be one of the worst ones.
Like, so the guy that was introducing you, he said, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and then he just.
No, the person who died was just doing like, they sometimes do little speeches and excuse me. So she's talking before, just normal corporate wrap up crap. And I guess aneurysm popped or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like that. So I've had that, I've pooped myself on stage like Horowitz. I've had that happen.
Oh, you shit yourself on, like, literally soil yourself?
Yeah, I tell the story quite often, but yeah, I've done that. Linking a coat hanger onto a guy's arm after I just had some bad wine. The client had like 100-year-old wine. And I was like, I wouldn't mind trying some of that. I do. In the middle of my act, I'm doing Powers of Darkness, Corinda's thing with Mike Caveney reworked with coat hangers. I'm doing that. I'm linking this coat hanger onto this guy's arm. I feel a gurgle in my stomach. And in the time it takes me to think, man, that did not feel right. All the audience here is just like, just shit myself. And like performer like instinct, I got the mic in my hand and I go, oh my God, I shit myself.
Are you?
And then I dropped the mic and I ran to the crowd. I had to go to the bathroom and cut it off. So it's like I've told the story a million times, but what makes it great for me is on the way home, client gave me a pair of their track pants to wear. So so I'm wearing like my suit jacket, my shirt, and their track pants. This is at the not the Pillar and Post. It's another hotel in Niagara Falls. Can't summon the name. At any rate, valet brings my car. I get in. I immediately call Dave Mary. I'm like, because Dave knows the story with Horowitz. So I'm like, Dave, you're not going to believe this. I just shit myself on stage. I tell him the whole story. Dave is laughing uncontrollably. Once he finally he gets himself back together. And he's like, look, you get a letter of recommendation from that client. I give you $100. If you get booked back again, I'll give you 1,000. I just thought I got neither, though I did ask for both.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, the Horowitz bit, I mean, Donnie Coy told me that story after he's had a couple drinks. And I swear to you, like you would never, like, that's happened to me where I've eaten.
I don't eat before I go on now.
Yeah.
Ever.
Now, I remember eating they had like a, like a little,
sorry.
It was like a little buffet table. So they're like, yeah, you could eat. I'm not going to say the club, but I was eating, and it was actually at Absolute Comedy. So I was having the buffet, and the guy that was emceeing, he was from the States, and he was ready to introduce me, and he could see, like, I'm white right now, but I mean, I was as white as this lion right here and sweating. And he goes like this. He goes like this, Matt. He goes, which it signaled, go to the bathroom. I'll stall. I go to the bathroom. It's like, it sounded like it was like an orchestra coming out of my, like a mariachi, just shooting out of me. And I just hear him, talking more and more. I like to be clean, and I'm trying to be clean, and I go out there, and I was like, I thanked him so much, but he was a heavy duty gambler. So back in the room, this is when when you could go online, because I couldn't understand what he was doing at like 3 or 4 in the morning. He was constantly just gambling online and losing everything.
Wow. So you were working with Norm Macdonald.
Yeah, but with Norm, at least he can make a joke out of it. This guy was like, "They're gonna take my thumbs. They're gonna
Oh
take my
wow.
thumbs." So,
Wow.
yeah, he ended up getting a divorce from his wife or something because he was in
Sure.
debt. But have you ever been on the road with somebody where you just thought this guy's insane?
I mean, I told you Wes Saharic is my best friend. Can't get more insane than Wes. But I've been lucky with working with guys that I've always liked. Like there's a couple of acts I've worked with who are annoying. Like I've worked with an impressionist for a week that always talked to himself as Dangerfield, stuff like that. But nobody I really hated. I've been lucky that way. You can always find a way to be nice to people, and yeah, I've been lucky that way. So I have never really spent a week with someone that I just couldn't stand. So super fortunate that way.
Right. Are
Yeah.
you married?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. All right. Well, all right. So you found the
Well, I
right.
got that. Matter of fact, you'll hear the kid. You might be hearing the kid downstairs screaming. He's
It's fine.
nearing the end of school day, so he's like super happy. So you might hear the odd woohoo out of him.
Yeah. It just so doing all these shows on Netflix, Hulu, Comedy Central. Um, when you go out there, uh, like what do you just thinking? Like, do you ever think to yourself, I'm going to get my own show. I'm going to, uh,
I've
you know,
tried to get that. I've tried to get that.
yeah, like that's incredibly hard. But have you been, because I could see you doing your own kind of
I,
variety
I
show.
I pitched a variety show to CBC a number of times. Never really gone anywhere. There was a variety show in the works that I was in the running for. I almost was the host of it. It would have been career changing, but they decided to go with somebody who had 20 million views on their YouTube.
Yeah.
And a runaway hit in Canada has never had more than 1 million viewers. So I can see what they're thinking, right? If 1/20th of his audience comes, we got to win. Whereas if we go with Matt, he might be better suited for the job, but who the hell is he? So, but it's also not something I've really strived for. I never pushed hard for it. Excuse me. Yeah, I was always just happy doing my act and working it. And when I was a kid coming up Glen Ottaway, and guys like him would always tell me that good acts will always work. And I just really believed that. I just thought, oh, if you're a good act, you'll always work. And it's been that way. And that's all I ever really wanted. I didn't want to be a star. Just wanted to keep working, do my gigs. That was it.
Yeah. Now, where do you see the future of, uh, like, do you think things are going to come back to? Because when I talked to, uh, uh, God, I can't. He said it would be like when things go back, it'll be like the 1920s.
I've heard that theory.
I hope.
It
Wouldn't
would
that
be
be
great.
awesome?
I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if it'll be that. It's a different time now. It's tough to say. Nobody knows. So you can only hope for the best. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. It's a big mess right now. I think, when coronavirus is over and it's done, it'll be in people's heads probably for a little while too. So they probably won't be keen to gather. So whenever it's over, you probably get another 6 month gap from that. And then we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes. I think people will be chomping at the bit, at least in the beginning, to go out and want to see some more stuff. Um, but things like cruise ships may not come back in the same way. There'll be new acts, and you know how it is. Younger acts, take cruise ships for example. Um, I used to do them, 1 or 2 weeks at a time, but now they're going to want guys to go longer. And I don't want to do that. I have a family. So, the younger acts are going to go, we'll work for less, we'll go out longer. And that's how they'll get their foot in the door to level themselves up the way we did when we were younger. So, there's going to be a bit of that aging out. And my hope is that they'll just be better, higher end gigs so that the circle of life continues, right? The younger guys move up and maybe I'll keep moving up as well. But it's very hard to say. All you can really do right now, I think, is, work on your act, get your promo together, be ready in case that wave comes, and you just hope that it does. Otherwise we're all going to be driving for Amazon, I guess, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
I mean, they were yeah, I know. So, I want to leave it on a good note. That was,
Well, driving for Amazon, there are worse things, I guess. But yeah, no, I do think, I think it'll be better. I mean, it can't be any worse than this. It just can't be. So,
yeah, I know.
once you hit rock bottom, all you can do is push up from it. So we're there now. Let's keep pushing up and we'll see.
Do you remember the Paul Daniels Halloween special when he had the spikes come down on him and
Of
they left
course.
it, and then they had to come back on air and he had to come on and see, that to me was when things, it was like when,
Things were great.
yeah, it was just like you were like,
At
did that,
Halloween special, I saw Max Maven perform for the first time and Eugene Berger doing Gypsy Thread, two giants in magic,
yeah,
great, brilliant thinkers. Um, and I remember I performed at the Magic Castle in Hollywood, and Max Maven's in the room, and I just remember thinking, holy shit, Max Maven's here. I saw him as a kid on Paul Daniels. Like, yeah, those specials are great. Paul Daniels gave a lot of magicians a big platform, the way that Penn and Teller is now.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it was a better time then, for sure. Yeah, I think you're right.
yeah. Max is very, see, I thought he would, see, it's
Well,
great
you
because,
interviewed Max, right?
yeah, I interviewed him, but before, see, I was on my computer and thank God I had clothes on because all I hear is hello. And I was like, oh shit. There, and it was Max, and he it was like later on at night. So I wasn't on any drugs or anything. So it was just, it threw me off. And I said something to him that had him laughing so hard,
That's
and
great.
he has this beautiful, but I didn't record it. He had this beautiful laugh, and it was just like I remember just going, I just made a guy that could beat me at uh, checkers, chess,
Sure.
anything, and it just felt wonderful. And he was just such a, I didn't even know him, but it was just beforehand where I would just message him and he would just say, listen, if you need help with this, this is what, this is the type of book that would help you. Uh,
I think he's
very,
pretty generous with his time and his knowledge, as
very
long as you
sweet.
show you're doing a little work.
Yeah, very sweet man. Threw me right off that he was that kind and very, very smart.
He knows
Uh,
everything. He's just one of these walking
Oh
encyclopedias, you know.
God, it was just like it's just like I said something about the books, and he had a row of books behind him, and I got dolls, and it.
That's the difference between us and him, right? He spends all day reading this stuff, and
Yeah, he reads stuff, and he's just
like, here's the magic book I'm reading. Magic is my weed.
yeah. I got I
Uh,
got I got a
Great book.
hus.
Steve Spill is an underrated asset in magic. Well, there you go. If any young kids are watching, this is the book, man. Fawcett Ross. There's a whole act in this book. If you bother to read it, it's not even that big. So don't forget the old stuff. Max would probably agree with me. Don't forget the old stuff.
So what would you tell a young person starting off to read and to do? What would you
I,
say to them? Because
I
anybody
think I was
could
gonna look.
read.
You start with the Railroad to Card Magic Tarbell course. There's a whole act in that. Get your foundation, as Greg Fruin might say. Well, I've dropped a lot of names here today. I feel like the floor is littered. I apologize.
That's
But yeah, like get that foundation, and then it's try to be as original as you can, even if the tricks are not original. Be as original with them as you can. So be yourself. Be original. Be creative with your language. Try to be interesting, change gears. And if you do those things, you'll be very successful. I think, like I say, the most successful acts I know, and the ones that I'm the biggest fans are original, different. They work hard. Yeah, those things count more
yeah,
than almost. I think it's better to be mediocre and original than to be, hacky and middle of the road.
yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate your time, man. It really means a lot.
Oh no,
Uh,
it's awesome. Thanks for having me. This is a half an hour, whatever, that I'm not virtually learning with my son. So it was a nice break. And
well,
always good to talk to you, Vito.
well, I appreciate the time. You're very kind, and you always and yeah, and the thing is, you don't have to be, but it just shows you that the real person. Because I've met people where I thought were going to be awesome, going to be this, going to be that. You meet them, and they are just, you're like, oh, you suck, you brought me down. And it could be what Max Maven said, you could have got him at the wrong day, you could have, something bad could have happened, you don't know.
You don't know.
but
I've done
but
interviews where I'm certainly not at the height of it, but If
But
only I had more to give. I'm a hideous chud, and I don't know what I'm talking about.
well, like I could just tell just from like the love, like posters, the books that you got, your work. I'll put up a link. Matt's got an amazing website. I'll put a link to that. Check out his website, and if you want him for a corporate event, a Zoom, anything like that, contact him, and I guarantee you will be uh, in love with him. You'll just go, wow, this was
And
so
the
worth it.
squeaky chair will not be present.
Yeah,
I
the
will not
squeaky.
bring a squeaky
Well, it
chair.
might be. I mean, it might. You never know. I think it's kind of funny. But anything you want to say before going?
No, I just be safe, everybody. Of course, we're in the home stretch, man. We're almost out of this, so don't be foolish and be safe. And we'll be out of this soon, man. I'll see you guys I'll see everyone on the page out there on the road.
Well, folks, you heard it. I was talking to Matt Disero. I'm the amazing Vito. I want you to be good, be safe, and be kind. Please. Thank you, Matt.
See you later.